On Christmas Eve, when the city was wrapped in lights and quiet hope, a tired waitress made a choice that would change her life forever. She had no idea the fragile old couple sitting in her nearly empty diner carried a secret worth billions. She only saw hunger, cold hands, and eyes heavy with years of disappointment. What she did next would ripple far beyond that small diner, but at that moment, she stood at a crossroads she did not even realize existed. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Kind Vibes. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Maribel Reyes had been on her feet since dawn, working a double shift in a roadside diner that smelled of coffee, fried onions, and melted snow dragged in by winter boots. Christmas Eve was supposed to mean warmth and celebration, but for her it meant calculating tips in her head and wondering how to stretch a paycheck that never seemed to stretch far enough. Her mother's medical bills waited at home, unopened but heavy, and the heater in their small apartment had started making a worrying noise. Maribel kept smiling anyway, because smiling was part of the job, and because somewhere inside her she still believed that goodness mattered, even when it went unnoticed. The diner was quiet that night, the usual rush choosing family tables and candlelit restaurants instead. Snow tapped gently against the windows as the clock crept closer to closing time. That was when the door opened and an elderly couple stepped inside, moving slowly, as if the cold had settled deep into their bones. Their coats were thin, worn at the seams, and their shoes carried the stains of many winters. They looked around with hesitation, the kind that came from not knowing if you were welcome, and chose the smallest booth near the back. Maribel noticed the way they shared glances before opening the menu, the way their fingers lingered on the prices. She recognized that look too well. It was the look of people doing silent math, of people hoping hunger could be ignored for just one more night. She brought them water and bread, pretending not to see the relief on their faces when they realized bread was free. As she moved back to the counter, her manager reminded her sharply about unpaid tabs from the past and warned her not to let charity eat into profits, especially tonight. The old couple ordered one simple meal to share. As Maribel walked away, she saw the woman quietly rubbing her hands together for warmth and the man lowering his gaze, pride clearly wrestling with need. Something in Maribel tightened. She thought of her own grandparents, long gone, and of how lonely Christmas could feel when the world rushed past you. She thought of the small envelope of tips in her pocket, already promised to overdue bills. She also thought of the person she wanted to be. Without announcing it to anyone, Maribel made a decision. She brought out bowls of soup, warm and steaming, followed by plates fuller than what had been ordered. She framed it as a kitchen mistake, something that needed to be eaten anyway. She refilled their coffee again and again, and slipped a small dessert onto the table, insisting it was a holiday special. The couple ate slowly, savoring each bite, their shoulders relaxing as warmth returned to their faces. They thanked her with a sincerity that felt heavier than gold. When it came time for the bill, Maribel quietly took care of it herself. She used nearly all her tips, the money she had been counting on, and slid the receipt into the register before doubt could stop her. The couple left with grateful smiles and eyes that shone with something deeper than relief. As the door closed behind them, Maribel felt both lighter and terrified. She had done the right thing, she told herself, even as anxiety crept in about the consequences. The next morning, Christmas Day, Maribel returned to work expecting nothing more than another long shift. Instead, she found the diner buzzing with unfamiliar energy. Her manager looked stunned, holding a letter with trembling hands. The elderly couple had returned earlier, leaving behind more than thanks. They had left a request to see Maribel and a promise that would soon make sense. By afternoon, sleek cars lined the snowy parking lot, and whispers filled the diner. The old couple arrived again, transformed not in warmth or kindness, but in quiet confidence. They revealed that they were Arthur and Chelene Whitmore, founders of a global investment firm who had spent years living modestly after stepping away from public life. They traveled anonymously, they explained, to remind themselves of the world beyond boardrooms and balance sheets. That night, they had not been testing anyone. They had simply been hungry and tired. Maribel's kindness had met them without conditions. What followed felt unreal. The Whitmores covered the diner's outstanding debts, ensured bonuses for every employee, and then turned to Maribel. They offered to pay her mother's medical bills in full and fund Maribel's dream of going back to school, something she had buried under years of responsibility. They did not call it a reward. They called it gratitude. Maribel stood frozen, overwhelmed by a mix of joy, disbelief, and tears she had been holding back for years. She realized then that kindness had a weight to it, a gravity that could bend the future in unexpected ways. She had not fed billionaires. She had fed people, and that was what mattered. As the diner filled with laughter and the glow of Christmas returned, Maribel understood that her life had shifted, not because of money, but because her belief in goodness had been affirmed. She promised herself she would never forget that night, or the lesson hidden inside it. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kind Vibes. Your support helps spread these moments of hope to others who need them. And before this story ends, tell us in the comments what kindness means to you, or share a moment when a small act changed everything.